Hello, good afternoon everybody. My name is Richard Hughes and welcome to this afternoon's webinar, which is an introduction to the latest release of Infor SunSystems, SunSystems 6.2. So this is going to be an overview session. There is a lot of new functionality in this release, a lot of information we'd like to share with you. So this is an introductory session where we're going to go through some of the highlights of this release, and there are quite a lot of highlights, in fact. So we'll get through as much as we can. The session's hopefully going to last around 45 minutes. And let's just take a look at the agenda. Okay, so quickly we'll just talk a little bit about the background to this release, take a very quick look at some of the key features in SunSystems or Infor SunSystems 6.2. Specifically, we'll have a look at the new user experience, the new look and feel of the system, both in the rich client and in the web client. Take a look at some of the, or talk about some of the new core functionality, that is to say extended analysis and enterprise data management. We'll then take a look at some of the new web-enabled functions within SunSystems, because one of the other things that's changed a lot in this release is there's now a lot more web enablement. So we'll go through some of that functionality as well. We'll talk about some of the enhanced administration features and again go through some specifics on that. And finally just mention some of the other some of the new things with regards to internationalization, new language features, I guess things that are more important for global clients operating in an international environment, because there's been quite a few enhancements in that area as well. And then finally we'll wrap it all up with a Q&A session, an opportunity to ask any questions about anything you've seen this afternoon. So as I say, hopefully we should be done in around 35-40 minutes, and then we'll go into the Q&A session. We'll also take a look at the software itself. We'll have a bit of a live hands-on with the latest release. Okay, so just a little bit about the background to SunSystems 6.2. So first thing to say, 6.2 is out there now. It was released at the end of March. Here at Eclipse we're starting to implement this already for some of our clients, and it's a very, very significant release. But I guess there's been a lot of development, time, a lot of effort and testing that's gone into this release. But I guess just talking a little bit about some of the reasons or some of the things that Infor had in mind, or some of the, I guess, key ideas or things that they wanted to get across in this release. First of all, there are a lot of things that went into this release that were really a prerequisite, if you will, for being able to deploy SunSystems to the cloud. Now we'll see later on this year the release of the Infor Cloud Suite, which is Infor's software as a service subscription-based platform for all of its products, but within that, SunSystems and all of the related SunSystems software will be able to be deployed via the cloud. However, in order to be able to move to that kind of model, or to offer that model to customers, from a technical perspective, there are certain things that need to be put in place in order to cloud-enable SunSystems. So when we look at some of the enhanced administration functions, the reason why a lot more things have now been web-enabled, a lot of the reasons for that are to do with being able to make SunSystems cloud-ready. So cloud is very much, or has been very much at the forefront of Infor's mind with the release of 6.2. Secondly, I guess it's been a long time since there's been any sort of new core functionality in SunSystems, or major new core functionality. So even with the version 5 releases, version 6.1, we used to get quite a lot of sort of incremental functionality, a few sort of minor enhancements here and there, but there hasn't really been any major additions to the core modules within SunSystems for a number of years. So one of the things that Infor wanted to do was actually add more core functionality for users of the system, for people who've been using the system for a long time, to really just make this an attractive upgrade, but also to sort of bring it in line with some of the other products that are out there now to make SunSystems more competitive. Traditionally it's been strong in a lot of areas, but perhaps some of the some areas where it's been lacking. Infor have tried to address that by adding more core functionality into the system, and specifically, two things that we talked about at the beginning: enterprise data management and the extended analysis module. They are new core functionality, new modules within the core product. So that's something that hasn't really happened for a long time. And also, we talked about it a little bit, making the system more efficient to administer. So more efficient system administration, consolidating a lot of the functionality around the administration of business units and security. That has really been consolidated into two core sets of functionality: the security console and the business unit administration tool, both of which we'll take a look at later in this session. And of course, it wouldn't be an Infor release if they didn't change the name yet again. So hopefully this is going to be the last name change for some time. But just to hopefully simplify things a little bit, SunSystems is now just called Infor SunSystems, as opposed to the previous version of 6, which was called Infor 10 Financials Business SunSystems. Okay, so some of the highlights then of this release. So again, we talked about a few things, international aspects, things from that are relevant for global customers. One major enhancement has been the Unicode enablement of the business unit database. So this allows us to actually mix complex non-Western, Western languages in a single implementation, whereas previously we had to create lots of separate business units. Maybe if you were using Eastern European, East Asian characters, you were not able to have all of those business units sitting in one SQL database. So that's really been a major change, and something that's been long overdue. The addition of some new languages, some new complex languages, Arabic, Hindi. The new core functionality that we talked about, the extended analysis module and enterprise data management, the business unit administration functionality, and the ability to use native SunSystems Connect payloads with Infor Ion. So for those of you who are using Infor Ion already with version 6, or maybe thinking about implementing Ion, perhaps one of the restrictions to date is that there have been a limited number of BODs or business object documents that were available through Ion. The ability to now effectively use any method that's available for integration in the standard SunSystems Connect web service through Ion really greatly enhances the power of Ion when working together with SunSystems. So effectively what it means in layman's terms is anything you could do with SSC, you can now put that through the Ion integration platform, but at the same time leverage that to give you the added benefit of workflow, alerts, real-time messaging, task alerts, and also put all of those integrations through a single management interface. So if you've got a lot of legacy integrations that are using SSC, the fact that you can now put all of that through Ion in a single single middleware platform really enables you to manage all of those integrations a lot easier. Other things that have changed, again, these are maybe small things that are happening in the background, but actually in terms of the way the system works day to day and how we can implement the system, it really makes it a lot easier to use and a lot easier to implement. So a lot of things have changed in the back end, and again, I won't go into all of these in detail, but some key ones there. So things like the the form and filter compile. Again, some administration functions that had to be periodically run, or maybe if you were setting up new business units, all of that now happens dynamically. So there's no reason to ever actually need to recompile forms or recompile filters. All of that happens automatically in the background. Another sort of weak point to date in the SunSystems 5 and 6 platform has been a single point of failure in the security service. So we've seen over time, SunSystems has become more and more scalable, and there's more and more things we've been able to do in terms of making the system more resilient. We can add resilience or failover at the database layer. We can put in multiple application servers, but to date, there's been nothing we can do, certainly on the larger implementations, to sort of load balance the security service. Well, that again has changed, and so that can now also be load balanced, and so on larger implementations this means we've got a much more robust much more robust system, and practically every point, every layer of the SunSystems application stack can now be load balanced or made scalable if we need to. Infor Mingle, so again Infor Mingle is the collaboration platform that's powered by Infor Ion, so the SharePoint powered platform for sharing information in and across Infor and non-Infor applications. So again, out of the box in this release there are a lot more interaction points between SunSystems and Mingle. So if you're using Mingle, there's definitely a lot more you can do with Mingle if you're using SunSystems 6.2. And there have been quite a few specifics also with regards to the reporting engine within SunSystems itself. So from version 6 onwards, so from 6.1 onwards, the reporting engine was changed to use the standard Microsoft SQL reporting services, and again, even within there's been a lot of enhancements, the ability to schedule reports automatically out of the system, the ability to use your own native SQL SRS reports and then import those into the Sun Report Manager. Again, these are all things that make the system a lot more flexible. There's a lot more you can now do with the SRS reporting engine within SunSystems. So as you can see, there's been change in a lot of areas. There's been a lot of visible change, certainly in the front end, as we'll see, but there's also been a lot of things happening underneath the bonnet in the database, enhancements to make the web client perform better. And there's been a lot of changes in the background that are not necessarily visible, but have really contributed to make this into a really significant release for SunSystems. Okay, so moving on, and we'll take a look at this on the live software in a second, but just to sort of give you a little look. So we said that the user interface has now been refreshed. So if we look at the new rich clients, so the full-blown desktop client for SunSystems, you can see that this is now been given a little bit of an overhaul, a lot cleaner look and feel. So that's the main landing page for SunSystems there. So that's really been cleaned up, and we'll go through some of the other screens when I do the solution demonstration in a second. And likewise on the web client, again, a very similar look and feel. So the idea is to make this a very familiar system and a common user interface, whether you're using the web client or whether you're using the desktop version. Perhaps in the past, on a previous version of SunSystems, there was a little bit of a disparity between the web client and the desktop client, but as you can see here, both of those have now been upgraded to really sort of bring them in line and make them to give them a common look and feel, and hopefully make it a lot more attractive and a lot more easy to use. Okay, so just going into a little bit more detail on some of the enhancements for the core functionality, and again, this is probably really too much to cover in an introductory session such as this, but we'll certainly be running some additional webinars in the next couple of weeks, both on extended analysis and on the enterprise data management module. But just to sort of introduce these a little bit and talk about some of the key functionality within those two new core modules. Okay, so first of all, extended analysis. So this is a new standard module within SunSystems. So this is new standard functionality. You don't need anything special from a product perspective. It's a new standard module within the system. Of course, being a new standard module in the system means that this is licensed separately. So if you're an existing user of Sun 6, or if you're upgrading to 6.2 from a previous version and you want to take advantage of the extended analysis functionality, then you need to purchase a license for that. And it's licensed in exactly the same way as all of the other SunSystems modules. So if you wanted to add in corporate allocations or fixed assets, extended analysis is just another module from a license perspective. But what does it do? Okay, so what extended analysis does is effectively it allows you to create analysis codes on analysis codes. So some people have described this as being sort of A codes over T codes, but what it allows you to do is it allows you to extend or customize any analysis dimension. So not just ledger analysis dimensions, but also asset analysis, account analysis. So for any analysis dimension, and then within any analysis code within that dimension, you can further define a number of additional extended fields, as they're called. So as an example, if you had a ledger analysis category to track projects, so the standard analysis dimension is called project, what you could then do is you could create some custom extension fields on each project code to also capture things like project manager, project start date, project type, all of those kinds of things. So you can effectively analyze your analysis codes even further. So it's really adding yet another dimension to the already strong analytical capabilities of SunSystems. So so the extended analysis module, we can use this as, again, a couple of examples we've got here. So on project accounting, as we said, we can capture things like project manager, project start date, or maybe in a property management scenario, you have a standard analysis dimension for property, but then for each property you also wish to capture maybe the property size in square meters, who's the landlord, the lease start and end dates. So you can set those up as extended fields on each property code within your setup. And of course, all of this extended analysis information, once it's been configured, is visible in the standard control desks. So that's to say the standard inquiry screens within SunSystems, account inquiry, ledger inquiry, journal inquiry. It's available in all of the standard reports, and of course if you're using Q&A Vision, it's accessible of course in all of the Q&A Excel, Q&A Vision Executive, so all of the extended analysis information is reportable inside the standard Q&A reporting tools. So things to remember: extended analysis is business unit specific. So the way it works is you define which analysis dimensions you wish to extend in analysis definitions. You can then input and define the regular analysis codes as you normally would. But then for each analysis code within a dimension, you can then define a maximum of 35 extended fields. And you can also control, for example, you can have, as you can see here, up to, for each dimension, you can have an additional up to 5 additional date fields, up to 5 additional numeric fields, fixed text fields, extended text fields, for example, for an extended description or notes, 4 additional text fields of 50 characters, 10 additional text fields of 15 characters. So effectively, you can have an additional 35 fields for every dimension within the system. And you can also define, 2 kinds of extended analysis fields. You can create your own custom fields, or you can have what's called a standard field, which is effectively a link to an existing reference field anywhere else in the system. So if there's some kind of relationship between project code and some other kind of analysis code, or project code and something in the chart of accounts, you can basically define that mapping and then have the 2 things. You can have one update the other automatically. And of course, any extended analysis codes that you define, they can be transferred or copied across between business units using Transfer Desk. And we can also, also apply some rules in terms of, whether extended fields are mandatory or not. So we can make extended analysis fields mandatory or non-mandatory. We can have them configured as, calendar controls. If it's a date field, we can have it as a drop-down list. It can be a free text box, and you can also do things like, populate them with default values. So it's a really, really powerful set of functionality, and as I said, it's something that we're going to be taking a look at a little bit more detail in an upcoming webinar in the next couple of weeks. So the second new piece of core functionality in 6.2 is something called enterprise data management. So enterprise data management is really, it's really come about as something that's been put in place to address the need to effectively manage or standardize on corporate data across, I guess, maybe the larger installations or maybe multi-business unit installations of SunSystems. So, for example, if there's a head office that needs to control some aspect of the setup of the subsidiary data, so a standard corporate chart of accounts, or there's certain analysis codes or analysis dimensions, currency rates that need to be defined in a single master business unit and then pushed out to subsidiary business units or other business units in the organization. Historically, there's been no way of doing that very elegantly. Again, we've been able to do more and more things over time with the introduction of things like transfer desk and the automation desk, and the automation capabilities within transfer desk to schedule those kinds of things. But it's been limited in terms of the the granularity and the control you can have over that. What enterprise data management does is it allows you to effectively define at a very detailed level what kinds of data can be replicated across different business units from a master business unit or one or more master business units, and you can also determine which portions of that data get replicated. So if you're synchronizing chart of accounts across sets of business units, you don't necessarily have to synchronize the entire chart of accounts. Depending on the rules that are defined, different subscriber business units may be subscribing to different portions of the chart of accounts. So maybe if the elements of the balance sheet or P&L are going to be the same for every single business unit, they can be pushed out exactly as is. But then if there may be subsections of the master chart of accounts that need to go down to different subsidiaries, then each subsidiary can be configured to pull down a different portion of the master chart of accounts separately. So again, enterprise data management is a new standard module within SunSystems. Now the good thing is, being a standard module, it comes with Sun 6.2, and there are no separate license requirements for enterprise data management in itself. However, enterprise data management is powered by Infor Ion, so you will need an installation of Infor Ion to take advantage of enterprise data management. And again, we'll talk about that, and maybe we can go through that in detail at the end. But the key thing to remember is if you wish to use enterprise data management, you will need an Infor Ion installation to do that, because Infor Ion is effectively what powers the synchronization process between all of these different business units. But the good news is, from a SunSystems perspective, it's very easy to set up. You configure what are called publisher business units. All of the rules are actually defined using standard business rules functionality in SunSystems, and then on the subscriber business units, you just set up the subscription rules inside SunSystems itself. So all of the setup and configuration is effectively done within the SunSystems application. So you don't need any sort of specialist integration knowledge to get this up and running, even though it is powered by Infor Ion. So again, just a very sort of quick schematic there, just to sort of show you the architecture of enterprise data management. And just on the left-hand side there, you can see the types of information that you can replicate using the enterprise data management module. So as we said, we would have one or more business units that are defined as publishing business units, and then within there, for each one of these sort of data entities, we can define, based on the creation, the amendment or a deletion of a record, exactly what happens, and those rules are defined within standard business rule screens within SunSystems. But then Infor Ion picks up the business rule triggers, it fires off a request to Infor Ion, which will then, depending on the rule that is configured, take the information from the publishing business unit and then push that out to one or more subscriber business units within the within the target architecture. Okay, so another sort of key, sort of another pillar of this release, if you will, has really been an increase in the enablement or the web enablement of functionality within SunSystems. So just to sort of recap, until now, the web client really just encompassed the the core product. There are a lot of administration functions that were still sort of external to SunSystems. Things like user manager, forms compiler, data dictionary editor, transfer desk. All of these kinds of things were still effectively only available through the rich client desktop version of SunSystems. With this release, what has happened is that there's been a major increase in the amount of functionality that is now web-enabled in SunSystems. So in 6.2 we have obviously a user interface update to the core web client itself. We also have the web-enabled version of User Manager, which is called the Security Console. We have a fully web-enabled version of Transfer Desk, so full web enablement for Transfer Desk, both in terms of defining, modifying, managing transfer profiles, but also for the execution of Transfer Desk profiles, and also as a means to monitor and review the history of anything that's been executed or integrated using a transfer profile within Transfer Desk. So we also now have a Transfer Desk history viewer that's enabled in the web client, where we can view any Transfer Desk activity in a single user interface. And things like data dictionary editor, again, that's now fully web enabled, and there's also a new user interface for the mobile client as well. So for the mobile version of SunSystems, again, that's received the same user interface update as the regular web client. So specifically, within that, we said that there are effectively two major pieces of functionality that weren't previously web-enabled that are now web-enabled. One of which is Security Console. So Security Console effectively replaces User Manager, although of course you can still use the regular User Manager, so you still have the desktop version of User Manager, but in effect you don't actually need to go into there if you don't want to do any of the security management within SunSystems 6.2. So what the Security Console allows you to do is it allows you to do, well, effectively anything you can do in the standard User Manager, but you can do that in any browser, whether it's IE, Firefox, Chrome, Safari. The layout has been organized a little bit differently, and you can access that directly through its own URL, or you can actually access it embedded within the SunSystems web client itself through the standard SunSystems menus. So the Security Console does everything we would normally do in the User Manager, so the creation of users, creation of user groups, management of users within those groups, policy settings, user activity, so clearing out of monitoring operator activity, and maybe if somebody's got a blocked session or somebody's got locked out, you can clear that user directly through the Web Security Console, and also reviewing any of the audit functions as well. And you can also define things like the function extensions, so the custom menu items, set up data access groups, all of those things that were also previously done in User Manager. You can now do those in the web client in the Security Console. Second major piece of web-enabled functionality, which is also really a major enhancement in the standard desktop version of Sun as well, is the consolidation of a lot of the administration functions for business units into a single console, which is called the BUA, the Business Unit Administration Console. Now, the reason this was done, again, it's one of the prerequisites for being able to cloud enable SunSystems. but previously, I think the functionality for managing business units was sort of spread out across a few different functions. So the idea was to streamline a lot of that, put it all in one place, and make sure that everything was easily accessible in one single function, and really just sort of streamline the entire process. But there are some other things you can do with the business unit administration function, of course, that you couldn't previously do. I guess one of the main goals of the BUA function is to, first of all, provide an overview of all of the business units within, within the SunSystems domain. But it also allows you to, manage in terms of moving business units around, so you can, easily create snapshots of business units. You can take business units online or offline. You can move business units between domains directly from within the BUA function. And in terms of creating new business units, one of the things previously you had to go through 3 or 4 different steps. That has now all been consolidated into a single step. So in terms of creating, previously you had to create the tables for a business unit, then create the business unit setup record, then create the business unit name, etc., etc. All of that has now been done, just in in a couple of clicks. And there's also some additional, some additional functionality you can use in there for basically, making the taking a business unit offline, making you can actually create a business unit that's not a live business unit, so you can create a test business unit. You can mark it as a test business unit. You can then create, convert that test business unit to a live business unit. So it's really just sort of consolidating existing functionality, but also also providing some really useful new functionality in there as well. So as we said, I won't go through all of these in the interest of time, but effectively I'll just show you quickly in the solution demo. But what it allows us to do is to display the current status of any admin tasks that are currently running against any business unit. We can view the history of any admin tasks that have been carried out against any business unit. Take a business unit offline, as we said. But also we've got this concept of a stored business unit or a packed store. So effectively what this allows us to do is to basically pack an entire business unit and then pack that up into a set of into a single compressed file, which we can then use to move between different SunSystems installations. The reason for this is historically there has been a functionality to do that, the business unit backup and restore, but from a technical perspective, that's been, hasn't really been very reliable. And one of the reasons it hasn't been reliable is that there's a lot of information that is actually not stored in the business unit tables itself. It's actually managed centrally in the domain database. Again, cut a long story short, that whole process has now been optimized, and really it really makes it a lot easier to take an entire business unit out of a single domain, move that into a different domain, or maybe just take an offline copy of it for support purposes, stick it in a single archive file, and then for example send that into the Eclipse help desk if you've got a problem, or if we request a copy of your data. So again, it's really just making the management of business units a lot easier. So because all of this is now taking place in a single function, some of the functions that used to exist actually no longer required. So we mentioned business unit setup, business unit copy, business unit backup and restore, and any of the sort of transfer desk methods within transfer desk for doing those things. They've now been taken out. So effectively, you don't need to do business unit setup, business unit create, business unit backup, restore, any of that kind of stuff anymore. It's now all managed centrally in the BUA function. Okay, so there's a lot of there's a lot of things that are new in this release, as you've seen. There's probably a whole lot more that I haven't really had a chance to go through on these slides, so hopefully that gives you a good idea. But what I'll do now is maybe just switch across into the demo system and just sort of give you a quick overview of the real thing. Okay, so let's just move a couple of things out of the way. So this is the, as we said, the standard desktop client for the new SunSystems 6.2. So as you can see here, if you're familiar with Sun 6 or if you're familiar with Sun 5.4 or even Sun 4.4, you'll see that the organization of the the main landing page is still the same, but it's really just sort of been cleaned up a little bit and given it a lot cleaner and more modern look and feel. Likewise, if we have a look at the just log out of the desktop client and we just go into the web client, you'll see again that the user interface is is very similar. And just log in there, and it's a common look and feel across both. So let's just log in here. So this is the web client, just running in the browser, as you can see. And the screen is pretty much the same. Obviously, there's a few restrictions in terms of what you can display in the web client, but actually, most of the functionality is exactly the same. So you've got chart of account. If you type in account, you've still got the free text search. So if you type in account, of course, you dynamically get any function that includes the word account in there. So if you go into the chart of accounts in the web client, the look and feel is pretty much the same as the chart of accounts in the desktop client. So the first thing, as we said, is the whole system has really had a real overhaul in terms of the user experience, just to make it a lot more, a lot cleaner, but also a lot more consistent between both the web client and the desktop client. Whereas previously they were a little bit different in terms of how they looked and how they responded. So that's the first thing. Second thing, if we take a look at some of those newly web-enabled features, if I just wait for this to finish doing whatever it's doing, we'll just take a quick look at some of those things that I mentioned: the business unit administration and the security console, and also the web-enabled transfer desk. Just log in again. Sorry about this. Okay, one more try. So let's just have a look. So if we go into business unit administration, Okay. So let's try that again from the desktop clients. Okay, so in the business unit administration console, as we can see here, let's just have a look. So just quickly go through this screen. So first of all, we can see what business unit groups we've got. So we can see the domain database. So it's an overview first of all of the databases within our SunSystems environment. So we've obviously got the domain database, and then we've got the data database. Now within that, if I just explode the first business unit group, you can see it'll then give us a list of any business units within that business unit group. And you can see here, again, we can assign types or classifications to these business unit groups. The status is it's online. Is it a financials only business unit? How many active operators are working in that business unit? Is it got SSC enabled, etc., etc.? Last action taken against there. Is it using enterprise data management? All of those kinds of things. So you can see, first of all, it's a real sort of consolidation of all of the functions to do with business units, and in one place you can get a single overview of everything to do with the administration of your business units. So if we have a look in the actions menu, you can see here, so you've got the options to take a business unit offline, put it back online. If you wanted to create a new business unit, you would do it directly from within this screen. So if we just go in and click create, that will then take you straight into the business unit creation screen from within BUA. You don't need to go in and access any other function. If you wish to copy a business unit, again, you can do that directly directly from within this single screen. If you want to have a look at the history of this business unit, again, you can see the history of any actions taken against this business unit. So if you wanted to see if somebody's made a copy of the business unit, if you wish to see any changes that were made to that business unit, you can see that again from within this single user interface. Also have the option here to downgrade business units. So if you had a business unit when it was originally configured that was built with all of the some business order fulfillment tables as well, you find out you don't actually need those. You can now downgrade a given business unit and convert that back into a financials only business unit. That's something you can do directly from within the system. Previously, the only way to do that was to effectively create a copy, recreate the business unit from scratch. So that's now been enabled again from within the system itself. So you can see the business unit administration there. It's a real sort of consolidation of all of the admin functions. There's a lot of new functionality been put in there as well. So let's just have a look if we go into the System tab, again, you now see under Security we have a lot more, a lot of new options. So all of the things to do with security that were previously managed within User Manager, which of course you can still access if you want to, but all of those things have now been brought into the core application. So if you wish to set up security users, you can do that directly from within, from within SunSystems itself, or more importantly, you can do this from within the web client. So you can see here anything to do with the administration of users, which group user belongs to, the authentication method, what's their password. All of that stuff can be done directly from within, SunSystems itself, or from within a browser. If you wish to manage, the groups, all of those things that were previously managed from within User Manager, you can do that again directly from within SunSystems itself or through the browser. And the transfer desk as well. If we just have a look, let me just see if I can get this working in the in the browser version. So if we just go in here. So you can see in Transfer Desk as well, you can now access all of the Transfer Desk functionality from within the browser. So in the actual, I haven't got any profiles set up at the moment, but yeah, in here you would see any any profiles. You can go into the history viewer. You can see if when a given profile was run, the start time, the end time that profile was run, number of records succeeded, number of records failed, who ran that profile, etc., etc. So you've got a monitoring functionality within there as well. And you've also got, we just go into the core Transfer Desk, you've also got the ability to define folder structures within the server itself. So historically, one of the weaknesses of Transfer Desk has been, it's not very transparent in terms of where it stores all of the files that it works with, and it's importing, synchronizing, or exporting information. You now have the ability to define a proper folder structure using a functionality called Server File Management, and you can set up a very specific folder structure, but more importantly, you can actually define security on individual Transfer Desk profiles. Previously, if you had access to Transfer Desk, you effectively had access to run any profile within the Transfer Desk. You couldn't actually lock down individual profiles, so you can now do that in Transfer Desk. You can actually lock down individual Transfer Desk profiles. And then if we just see if we can get this working, let's just go and have a look at the ledger entry screen, for example. Most of the other core screens haven't really changed from within, in terms of layout from this version, from the previous version to this. But again, you'll see that they've just really been sort of cleaned up and just sort of tidied up in terms of the aesthetics of the screen. But the major new functionality, I guess, so extended analysis, the enterprise data management, but really the consolidation of a lot of the administration functions, both in terms of management of business units, management of security, and Transfer Desk, but also the web enablement of all of those, all of that functionality as well. Okay, so we're kind of running short on time, so that hopefully is a little bit of a useful introduction to what's new in 6.2. So as I said, we're probably going to be running some more detailed sessions both on enterprise data management and on the extended analysis module. But what I'll ask my colleague Emma to do now is to open up the telephone lines. So if anybody has got any questions or answers on what you've seen, and we'll come back to the roadmap in a second. Let's just see if there are any questions and answers first of all. Emma.
Thank you, Richard. Please can anyone let me know if you have any questions, either by raising your hand or by typing a question in on your keypad. Thanks. No questions so far, Richard.
Okay. So one thing I forgot to mention, one of the questions we often get is, what's happening with the SunSystems roadmap. So again, this is not set in stone, but this is really just to give you an idea of where Sun is going, over the next couple of years. So obviously we're at the beginning of this roadmap at the moment. So March 2014, the first 6.2 release. So the top half of this schema being the introduction of new functionality, the bottom half being changes in technology or changes in platform. So you can see, cloud is a very big part of this. So where we are at the moment, this is the first cloud-enabled version of Infor 10X SunSystems 6.2. But in addition to that, we've got a lot of core functionality, extended analysis, enterprise data management, language enhancements, mingle integration, etc., etc. Plus, the series of enhancements on the technology side. What's going to happen next? Well, the idea, hopefully, is to bring in some new functionality, some additional portal functionality. Over time, we're going to see some things like more SRS enhancements, new currency rate types, improvements to the business unit administration functionality, and again a series of enhancements on the technology side as well. So again, these are this is not set in stone, but this is where Infor would hopefully like to sort of take Sun over the next couple of years. So as you can see here, so cloud is very much a big part of the roadmap, and the ultimate aim is to make this a fully multi-tenanted ERP platform, so something that can be set up as a true software as a service model. Any more questions, Emma?
No questions this afternoon, no.
Okay, good. Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll leave our contact details up on the screen. If anybody does have any questions or you'd like to clarify anything I've shown you this afternoon, then please don't hesitate to get in touch with myself, Richard Hughes, or Emma Mitchell, who is the organizer of this session. Thank you very much.